Hello, welcome back to Kim Reads. Let's continue with Brave Emily. Chapter 3. Practice makes perfect. Emily had taken her grandfather's words very much to heart. Every night, ever since she had arrived in America, Emily had slipped Brandy's dog tags under her pillow before she went to sleep, and hoped that the next day she would find a way to be brave and help England. She was glad to wear Grandy's dog tags all day as a reminder to be on the lookout, as Molly had said. It was hard to find a way to help England because she was so swept up in her American life. There was school, homework, helping Molly with multiplication, house chores, and working the Victory Garden. And now that it seemed as though Molly, Linda, and Susan wanted her to be their friend, Emily would have even less time because she would have to spend as much time as possible with them. The four girls got together every day over the weekend to help practice their flutophones. They were enthusiastic on Friday and practiced for 45 minutes. They were conscientious on Sunday and practiced for half an hour. They were frankly a little bored by Sunday and eked out only 15 minutes of practice before they went to jump rope. "Don't you hope Miss Campbell teaches us a new song to play today?" Molly asked Emily as they went to breakfast Monday morning. Actually, Emily dreaded the thought of a new song because it was real that she fudged her playing. It was just pure luck that she was able to play Hot Cross Buns on the flutophone. But she didn't want Molly to know that, so she just joked in her quiet way. "You mean to say you're fed up with hot cross buns?" she asked. "You're not hoping Mrs. Guilford serves some for breakfast?" "That's right," chortled Molly. I'm almost glad it'll be oatmeal." After breakfast, which was indeed grit and bared oatmeal again, the girls presented their practice cards to Mrs. Guilford. "I'll take your word for it as much as you've written here," said Mrs. Guilford, who was out firm about no flutophone playing in the house. "I'll be happy to say I didn't hear you tootling one toot." She sighed, the girls thanked her, and then they skipped off to school, flutophones in hand. The first thing Miss Campbell said was, "Boys and girls, I'm going to ask you to put your flutophones in your desk and leave them there. I don't want anyone to see fiddling with a flutophone until it'll be time for our lesson after lunch." The children obeyed, and Miss Campbell started the lesson. "In science, we learn how animals disguise themselves so they can hide from their predators," said Miss Campbell. "Who can tell me how that idea is to put in use by our troops?" "It's camouflage," Molly piped up. "Soldiers wear green uniforms and put leaves on their helmets so they'll blend in with the trees." "Ships and tanks are camouflaged, too," added Howie, "to hide them from the enemy." He turned to Emily and asked, "Was your ship from England camouflaged?" Emily nodded. She shivered, remembering how frightened she had been on the dark, gloomy ship with its slippery decks and sinister guns. Grandy, who had been in the Royal Navy, wouldn't think she had been brave for England when she was on the trip. "The ship was gray," she added in a small voice, "so it wouldn't stand out and be noticeable in the ocean." "Thank you, Emily," said Miss Campbell. "Speaking of noticing, I'm disappointed to notice you're having trouble leaving your flutophone alone, Woody. Evidently, I have to take care of it for you until it's time for a lesson. Please bring it to me now." Emily was glad when the class's attention was shifted away to Woody as she went up to Miss Campbell's desk, shamefaced, and handed over his flutophone. "Now time to get back to work," said Miss Campbell briskly. When it's time for the flutophone lesson, Emily saw Molly, Linda, and Susan put their heads together and whisper. Then Linda and Susan glanced at them, struggling to hide their smiles, and Molly raised her hand. "Miss Campbell," said Molly, "Emily can play hot cross buns really well. You should hear her." Emily shrank in her seat as every face in the room turned to look at her. Molly nodded and said encouragingly, "Show everybody, Emily." "Oh, dear me, no," thought Emily. But Miss Campbell said, "Please stand out and play for us, Emily." And Emily had to do as she was told. Her playing was as wobbly as her legs, but somehow she managed to hit the right notes. When she finished, Emily felt weak and out of breath, as if she'd run a long race. Everyone clapped, Molly beamed, and Miss Campbell said, "Splendid." Emily didn't feel splendid. Now the whole class and Miss Campbell thought she was good at music. The little misunderstanding was multiplying out of control. What would everyone think of her when they found out she was a fake? And they were sure to find out soon, because Miss Campbell began to teach a new song called "America the Beautiful," which Emily had never heard before. Fortunately for Emily, everyone played the new song so terribly that her wrong notes were lost in the confusion. "Practice," Miss Campbell reminded the children sternly when they lined up to go home. "Remember." The whole class said aloud to her, "Practice makes perfect." But Emily couldn't practice after school with Molly, Linda, and Susan because they had tap dancing lessons at Miss Lavanda's. Come with us, Emily, Molly urged. She and Linda and Susan demonstrated a few tap dancing steps on the sidewalk outside school. Tap dancing is fun. You'll like it. We're going to have lessons every day after school this week, Susan added, bouncing on her toes with excitement. Because they're going to put on a show at a war bond rally really soon. If you come to lessons, I bet Miss Lavanda will let you dance in the show too. Come on. Emily shuddered. Even though she wanted to be with her friends, the thought of tap dancing, and worse, performing in front of strangers, made her blood run cold with horror. Nothing could induce her grin to bear that. No, thank you, she said politely but definitely. I shan't. Okay, said Molly. See you later at home. She and Linda and Susan waved their flutophones and said bye. Goodbye, Emily answered. She scurried off in a homeward direction, grateful that she'd have a chance to practice her flutophone all by herself for a while. She desperately wanted to see if she could figure out to the tune of America the Beautiful so that she wouldn't sound terrible in front of Molly. And as soon as Emily changed out of her school clothes, she went to the room above the garage to practice. Brad, bringing graham crackers in for a snack, joined her for company. Somehow Emily didn't mind sounding terrible in front of him. Brad thought everything she did was just right. He sat on the floor eating his graham crackers and listened intently as she huffed and puffed and struggled through the tune. After a while, sweaty and discouraged, Emily stopped for a graham cracker break. She asked Brad, "How long do you think I've been practicing?" 100 minutes, suggested Brad, who couldn't tell times. Emily was far too kind to hurt Brad's feelings, so she didn't contradict him, although she knew perfectly well she had been clacking closer to 20 minutes than 100, even it felt like 100 hours. She stood up and brushed cracker crumbs off her shirt. Let's go look at the clock in the kitchen, she said. Okay, said Brad agreeably. The kitchen clock confirmed that, in fact, Emily had practiced for a scant 15 minutes. Emily's face fell. That's not very long, she said. She wrote number 15 on her practice card, thinking how skimpy it looked. Don't worry, Emily, said Brad. You can practice more when Molly comes home. Want to go help Mrs. Guilford in her garden? Jolly good, said Emily. She left her flutophone and practice card on the kitchen table and followed Brad outside. It was such a beautiful spring day. No one, Emily thought, could blame her for not going back outside in the dank garage, even though a teeny tiny voice nagged her, saying that she should practice more to pump up that 15 minutes. Would you like to help me plant this lettuce, Mrs. Guilford? Asked when Emily and Brad appeared to help her. Yes, indeed, said Emily as she knelt in the dirt. Me too, said Brad. Emily and Brad both felt like helping Mrs. Guilford in the Victory Garden. Brad liked it too because he was very fond of worms, sticks, puddles, and any excuse to get dirty. Emily liked it because it reminded her of working with Mom in their little garden in London with Granny in his much bigger garden at his house outside of London. Mrs. Guilford's gardening outfit was the same as Grandy's. They both wore stiff straw hats, thick gardening gloves, and knee-high black rubber boots. Emily also liked the smell of the cool earth and the feeling of the sturdy little seedlings in her hand. She enjoyed the sense that there was a lot going on in the garden. Lots of things beginning. Although you couldn't see all of them because they were quite going about, they're growing underground. You eat lettuce in England, don't you? Mrs. Guilford asked Emily. Oh, yes, and tea sandwiches on special occasions, said Emily. We put it on thin bread with mayonnaise. She corrected herself. That is, we used to. The only bread we have now is National Loaf. Tastes dreadful. It's hard to slice thin, and mayonnaise is made from eggs, and eggs are hard to come by now because of the war. You can have my eggs, Emily, said Brad, and send them to England. Thank you, Brad, said Emily seriously. It's kind of you for offer, but I'm afraid the eggs might get broken on the way, so I think you better eat them here or they'll be wasted. Emily smiled at Brad, wishing that she could send eggs home, or even ask the Red Cross to send turnips, as Molly had joked. Sending food would be a way to help England, but Emily knew that even if it were possible, Brad's eggs and Molly's turnips would have to be magically multiplied to make a difference. Mrs. Guilford stood up. That's enough for today, she said. Time to get ready for dinner, Brad. Wash off the garden hose before going outside. You've got to leave some of the dirt in the garden, else nothing will grow. Emily had just finished setting the table for dinner when Molly came dancing home from her lesson. Emily, she said, have you practiced your flutophone yet? Oh, a bit, said Emily. Oh, good, said Molly, because Linda and I practiced at Miss Lavanda's. I hope you don't mind. Not at all, said Emily, honestly. She was secretly relieved. She was even more relieved when Molly went to say, I think we'll practice our flutophones at Miss Lavanda's every day this week. Gives us something to do while we wait for our part rehearsal. Is that okay with you? Yes, indeed, said Emily. Molly grinned. We're not anywhere near as good as you are anyway, she said. We just hold you back. Emily knew that this was the moment to tell Molly the truth. She plucked up her courage and plunged. Molly, she began, But Molly interrupted her. It was wonderful the way you played hot cross buns in front of everybody at school today, Molly said. I just wanted to shout and brag to the world. That's Emily. She's my friend, and boy, I'm glad she is. Isn't she great? Emily smiled weakly. Look, said Molly. I even wrote your parents a letter about it. Emily felt cold. She read Molly's letter to Mom and Dad. The misunderstanding was multiplying faster than the 9 times tables. There was no question about it. She could not possibly tell Molly the truth now. And that's the end of that chapter. See you later.